Who would be a Wolves fan, eh?
On goes Bull. People might yet win it here for Wolves. Flash in the shot. What a goal!
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Wolves Fancast. Matt Guy here, alongside Dan and Rich, and a special guest this evening. It could be you. Not that we are the National Lottery, but it could be you. We are going to post the StreamYard link in the chat and across the different live platforms. So if you want to get involved this evening, treat this as a safe space, a sanctuary, if you like to get off your chest any of your opinions at the moment about Wolverhampton Wanderers and all of the kind of vitriol of yesterday's performance. A little bit of housekeeping, of course, firstly this evening. Thank you to the Sports Social Podcast Network, fcquiz.app. And this evening, we have free UK shipping on the Fancast T-Mill store. You don't want to give Wolves your money. You want to give it to us because these hoodies don't come cheap. So get involved with the T-Mill store as well if you want to get some Fancast merch. Paul Hale's already in the chat. If you don't want to come on and have your say on the podcast itself, get involved in some of the comments and we'll read out as many as we can this evening. But Dan, Rich, how are you doing this evening?
Not bad, not bad.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a roller coaster the last sort of 24 hours. My mindset changes by the hour on where we go as a club currently. Obviously, we'll dive into that a bit more as the show goes on. But yeah, like Daniel Williams says in the comments, evening fellow sufferers, it's going to be a lively one tonight because, like I said, by the hour, by the half an hour, my mindset changes. The run in itself is terrible, no matter how you look at it, whether you look at it including last season or not. Yeah, Ash Darling, anyone else just tired? It's bleeding exhausted, isn't it? Go on, Mac. Crack on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a lot to go through. Normally we'd go through kind of from start to finish and talk about the game. We will talk about the game, of course, but there's so much going on in the background, much like performances on and off the field. There's so much to discuss outside of just those 90 minutes of the game. The game itself, few changes going in. Forbes and Dawson as well are getting involved in the lineup. Rich, from your point of view, Gary O'Neill consistently looking at this four at the back formation. We'll get on to his comments about that later. But the changes that he made, where did you see yourself during the lineup when it was announced? And did you think the changes were the right ones?
No, it's just as usual, isn't it? It's rinse and repeat. You probably could pick the next team next week already. We already know it'll be. We know probably the formation, even though we've just been battered again. I just think his stubbornness is going to kill him. The board are just as stubborn as him, so they suit each other very well, to be honest with you. But I say it's just so frustrating to concede the goals we've conceded. You know, on 2 minutes we concede, score on 4, concede again, score again, concede again. It's literally like watching Sunday football, but it's not even. Sunday football's better, I think, than what we're defending at the moment. That's the problem. There's multiple issues in the club, as we know. Gary O'Neill currently is acting like one of them, which is a shame because we wanted a British manager. We wanted someone to be, fighting for us and loving the club and getting us together. But really, the tide has turned on him. Unfortunately, he's currently drowning at sea, in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, going into kind of this game, all the narrative from a Brentford point of view, Dan, was around this whole scoring within a minute. Did it factor into your thinking? Did you think, okay, if we could just get out of that, that's a victory in itself, or was that just shittiness? You weren't too bothered about that. The performance and how we got out the traps was the most important thing.
I think at Premier League level, you've got to be on the spot and ready for 90, 100 plus minutes in today's game now. Mm-hmm. It just felt the way that we started. And I think I put it out on our Twitter earlier before the Premier League shut us down by using a video we shouldn't have done. Is that from the way that we set out that first minute, we went straight back to Sam Johnston with the goal kick. Usually he wants an error on the ball. Didn't even take a touch, straight lump upfield. It just felt like mentally all they wanted to do was make it through the first minute. And if we didn't concede, we weren't going to lose. It just, the vibe, you just see the opening 40 seconds that we put out this morning. Nelson Semedo has the opportunity to shield it out for a foreign. Mario Lemina tries to do a ridiculous pass and has the execution of a guy with just a torso and no limbs. It was embarrassing. We'll talk about Mario Lemina a lot more as the show goes on, I'm sure, because he had an absolute stinker yesterday. Yeah. But like we said, everyone knew Brentford were going to come out the traps quick. They were trying to sort of set a new record, I think it was in the Premier League, for scoring in the first minute. But the manner at which we allowed Nathan Collins to ghost from box to box without any sort of marshalling or just, we may as well have just piggybacked him there ourselves. It was, I said, I've played for some dog shit Sunday League teams, and that was the same sort of level for me yesterday, that first minute.
Okay, I hear you.
It was a pull that first minute. Brentford were much better, but the fact that we let Nathan Collins box to box and score like that is, for me, inexcusable.
Yeah, I completely agree. One of the listeners, Scott, he's in the lobby going to join us, and I want to bring in Scott to talk about the first goal. Evening, Scott. You okay?
Yeah, I'm all right, thank you.
Good, excellent. So Nathan Collins gets his head on the ball. I counted 5 potential players around him that could have influenced the play and stopped the goal. I'm going to let Sam Johnston off the hook for this one. However, Nathan Collins had a free rein, 5 players around him. It's simply not good enough. Do you have any mitigation or any excuses that Wolves can give for why that goal was conceded?
Well, personally, I think that it's the all-round defending in the box. It's completely poor.
Mm-hmm.
No one's exactly like actually going at him. They're all just sitting there, hoping someone else will do something. It's just poor defending, and that's how you can see this.
He does get a chance to just at leisure stroll in like a Sunday afternoon stroll. He just strolls in, gets a header on the ball, and then wheels away in a non-celebration that really pissed me off as well. And I have no idea why. It's just grated on me even more. But Wolves immediately behind. And what did you think, Scott, in terms of how is the rest of this game going to look? We've conceded so early yet again.
Well, after I saw the first goal, I've looked obviously back at Brentford and said, well, they've scored early on before in the past 3 games, and then now that makes it 4. So there's a way that we can come back into this, and then when we got our equaliser, I thought we're back in this. But then after we scored our second equaliser from Sean Larson, when they score their third, I think the game's going now. When they scored their fourth, I thought, right, that's it. Is there any way back in? And since we didn't score for the whole second half until the very end, it was a game over, and I thought this is just going to keep on being the same thing every week. And people are saying, sack Gary O'Neill. Don't sack him. And this is maybe because he is sacking the manager won't do anything. It won't change anything, in my opinion.
Okay, the first blood for the Keep Gary O'Neill group in. Thanks, Scott, for coming on Fancast this evening, mate. Again, if anybody in the live chat wants to get involved with Fancast this evening, the StreamYard link is in the chat, and we'll keep posting it throughout the night. Don't be scared. I am approachable, not according to my line manager, but I am approachable to come and join us on the show. So, Rich, as soon as we concede, we get up the other end and we score. Mateus Cunha with the goal. Nice little worked pass through from Forbes. Semedo with the cross in. Wolves are back in it. Game on. Do you think, okay, reset, it's time to work. It's time to go to work. How are you feeling?
Yeah, it's one of those hammer blows to start where you think, oh God, not again. Here we go. This could be a roller coaster, and we can concede 10 here. We conceded after 2 minutes, and that's what we're going to do. But yeah, to get back in a game, great, amazing. You think, oh, okay, that shows character from the squad and the team are all up for us, so they want to fight. And then what was it again? We fought for a bit, and then on 20 minutes they score again. But again, it's poor defending, mostly zonal marking. It hasn't really worked very well, and is clearly not going to work very well. But yeah, so we took all our goals well. To be fair, I think we scored actually good goals, well worked, and good finishes. But yeah, it's just frustrating, isn't it? You think to get back in it, 1-1 away from home. Let's defend a little better, not shut up shop as shut, but just to hold it a little bit and let's be, want the ball and pass it around a little bit. But no, man, it's not the way we're playing as usual at the moment. There's just no confidence by the look of it.
Well, I'll give the chance for any tacticians in the comments to have their say on what that three in midfield looks like. But Dan, you mentioned about Lamina a little earlier in the show. The penalty. Firstly, was it a penalty for you before we talk about it in a bit more depth?
I think it's one of them. With VAR now, you can't give them the opportunity to even look at a situation like that. I think if it's opposite way around and Nathan Collins is doing that to Strand Larson, we're all calling for a penalty. From the moment sort of Nathan Collins gets the spin on Lamina, Lamina's lost control of him, and it's an embarrassing effort to try and control the centre half, who is a big lad. But for me, it's just another sort of situation where there just doesn't seem to be any control in any of the basics that we're doing as a club right now. We've supposedly brought in a set piece coach from Manchester City, and after sort of last season, didn't we sort of like go the majority of the season without conceding from a set piece until the back end of last season? And
I mean,
now
the stats themselves are incredibly low in terms of goals conceded via set pieces. We mentioned it like last season because of that very fact. And yeah, we seem to be making quite a habit of it at the moment. I mean, for what it's worth, for my opinion, Lamina gives the referee a decision to make. It looks like, for the wrestling nerds amongst them, he's trying to do a skull-crushing finale on his man. For me, it was a penalty. The referee didn't give it. VAR intervenes, but I think it was just one of multiple things that the captain did in that game, which really set the tone for our performance. And Dan, you were saying at the start of the show, it wasn't a stunning performance from him. Let's deep dive a little into that.
I mean, it's sort of summed up his season to a degree. I think there was a lot of people jumping on the how has he made Mario Lamina captain bandwagon at the moment, and I can't really disagree with it. Gary's talked about it numerous times about how this team's too emotional. It just seems like we're beyond passionate when sometimes you just need a strong head at the front of the ship guiding you through moments of trouble and a bit of adversity and whatnot. And I think Gary O'Neill picking Mario Lamina as captain has really put him in a conundrum now, because I think João Gomez and Andre, the two holding midfielders that we need to be the fours in front of our defence. I feel like our back line just doesn't work in a four. I think you've got to give Gary the props for trying to make it work. A lot of the fan base have been demanding it for years, since Nuno was in charge. But I feel we've got two fullbacks in Nelson Semedo and Ryan Aït-Nouri, who are just their liabilities in a back four. I feel the first goal yesterday, you see Craig Dawson give Totti a bit of a bollocking, because for me, Totti's been drawn into an area on the pitch where he probably would have been if he was the left centre back in a three. Mm-hmm. And it's difficult to keep giving Gary empathy with the way this run's unfolding. But like Richard mentioned earlier, his stubbornness to not go back to tried and tested is going to be the straw that brought the camel's back with our Premier League safety if it continues.
Yeah, I echo everything that you say. Before we bring Josh in, who's waiting in the lobby to have his say this evening, Rich, from your point of view, I'm going to put you on the spot here. I'm going to ask you the difficult questions. Dom in the chat has asked, was it the wrong decision to give Lamina the captaincy? And Tom said that Cunha is the captain. Fantastic for him. What say you? Where are you on Lamina and the captaincy?
Yeah, to be fair, at the start of the season, I think when Lamina got it, with the passion he showed in the last season and what he was like, he was up for the fight. He seemed like he was keen. I don't think anyone disagreed with the decision as such. It wasn't bad. He was replacing a captain that no one wanted in the first place in Kilman anyway. So one bad egg gone. Didn't look like it was a bad decision, but we probably could have gone with Dawson. We could have gone with Cunha. To be fair, either one of the others would have worked. But again, I don't know the reason why he's playing so poorly, but it's not, maybe the captaincy isn't helping him. But I think, like Dan said, it's the passion is there, but it's too much. The crying last week is absolutely embarrassing. We all love the club and all, but have a word with yourself. There's no need for it. So just get stuck in, play right, limit your mistakes and get on with it. But yeah, it looks like he's not really willing to stop limiting his mistakes at the moment. So yeah, it's just another one that's, really struggling with form. But then Gomez is no different at the moment either. So, he struggled with form the last month or 6 weeks. So, yeah, for me, no, I probably would have gone Cunha. But then again, would that have affected his form because he's scoring again? So you just don't know, do you? So,
yeah, Josh, I'm not going to put you on the spot about Lamina again. Welcome to Fancast this evening. What I am going to ask you about is Jurgen Strand-Larsen, and he got a goal in yesterday's game. A nice little reflex flick out of the boot for a nice finish there. Has been critiqued a little bit for lack of goals, to put it bluntly. But he's not really being provided the bullets either. Yesterday's goal, though, well taken, don't you think?
Yeah, of course, mate. Obviously, it's nice to see us bringing a striker in. He's got a couple of goals under his belt, considering kind of what he's been playing, what he's been playing with and stuff like that. We haven't given him many chances. I mean, what's impressive is he gets in front of his man yesterday. I mean, I saw it last night after the game. I'd not saw watched it, and I thought that is a proper striker's finish. That is like, when was the last time we had a striker do that across the defender? It was really good to see. It's just a shame that all the other twats are useless.
Certainly feels that way, doesn't it? I take it all back. Lamina, captain, where are you with it?
In hindsight, probably the wrong one, but what can you do? Like, you can't do it mid-season. You can't take it off him for the optics. But who do you give it to other than Dawson? But Dawson's not going to play every game. And, I was on about it with my mates yesterday. I said, I love Tommy Doyle, but our vice captain's like a 22, 23-year-old. Like, again, we've got more senior players than that. We've got Semedo, Cunha, Dawson. Where are these players who should be vice captain? We got that leadership group, and Tommy Doyle's our vice captain. How does that work? I think it's clearly weighing on Lamina. There's something not quite right there. Whether he's feeling the burden extra, I don't know. But something's not because he's not had a good game, has he, for a while and stuff like that. It's clearly weighing heavy on him, and the burden's too much, especially the state we're in at the minute.
Completely agree. There's some interesting conversations going on in the chat at present. Tim Green in the chat has a lot of interesting opinions. Tim, I'd love to get you on if you are willing to come on. But there's a couple of comments about Andre coming in, upsetting the apple cart a little bit. And instead of him, a centre-back coming in, it's affected the team setup, maybe the harmony. Dan, what do you think about this Andre coming in? The early signs is he's a fantastic player, and a lot of people are saying, well, he's not going to be here long. He must have been sold a right pipe dream. But, does Andre coming in cause problems, or is it Gary O'Neill's stubbornness to stay with that midfield three?
All of the above, Matthew. It's just another case of this club being run by men at the top who have got pound signs at the forefront instead of the footballing side being the most biggest priority. If the club ownership had any sort of ambition, they would have found the money not just to buy Andre, but to buy a centre half as well. The week before the transfer window was closing, There was articles coming out in the Telegraph that we didn't have much money to spend, and yet we managed to find £30 million for Sam Johnston and Andre when Max Kilman left at the start of June. And I'm not really sure where I stand on this, but I think the majority of Wolves fans would have said after Jørgen Strand Larsen was signed pretty quickly after Kilman that centre-half was the main position that we needed to replenish this summer. And the fact that we've gone out and brought in a goalkeeper that was Crystal Palace's second choice and a midfielder in Andre, whereas whether he's going to be a player that's sold for good money afterwards, centre midfield was probably the one area on the pitch for Wolves that we probably didn't need to be looking at. Obviously, at that particular time, Boubacar Traore, I don't believe, was injured. So you had Lamina Gomez, Tommy Doyle and Boubacar Traore bringing in a midfielder like Andre. It didn't make sense. And for me, it's another situation where, like I said, just people like Jeff Shear got future pound signs as a priority instead of the footballing side, because for me, how we've supposedly had a bid in the region of 20+ million for Wang coming from Marseille, and we haven't accepted that to bring in a centre-half, which we most definitely needed, stinks of an owner that, a chairman that, like I just said, has not got the footballing side's priority at the forefront.
Yeah, well said. Well said. I think there's a lot that's going on the pitch, but I think there's a lot that's going on off the pitch as well. Thomas Charles in the chat there, 20 mil for Hwang is wild. In hindsight, it does kind of feel that way, really. Wolves get themselves back into the game. Fantastic. It's all the only way is up, baby. However, the collapse soon comes around. And Josh, before you go, the collapse came thick and fast, didn't it, for Wolves? They allowed Brentford will really to get the game. Norgard on 28 minutes, Pinnock in first half stoppage time. I think it was the manner in which those goals were conceded, which is really disappointing. Real defensive lapse of errors. Totti stepping up far too much for one of those goals. The defence is a major issue, and in my opinion, can be only one way that's solved, and that's reverting to a formation that we're better suited to. But what say you?
Thank you, Todd. I give up. You know, like it's really depressing because I thought genuinely, like yesterday, the game we turned it around. I really did. I thought, you know, this is the game for us. If O'Neill and the players want to play for each other and stuff like that, they're gonna turn up, and we're conceding goals within a minute and 30, and then we are within a minute of their third goals within a minute. Like, what is going on? You know, this is not a new Brentford thing where the catch us out. They've done this every week, haven't they? You know, 3 games running, they scored in the first minute, and I mean, like I think what I was saying to someone today. Their first goal, Collins, is in their centre half. He's within our box in the first minute and a half. You'd never see us do that, would you? We would never, ever have a centre half inside their box inside the first minute. You know, I'm not saying that's the way to go, but it just shows the difference in ambition. And you can't, I mean, you don't even pick him up. And, you know, you're leaving centre halves free for headers off corners and stuff like that. It's total amateur. And, like, obviously, as you know, in the group chat, I've defended O'Neill, but for me, yesterday no one could defend that. It was completely not a joke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. Rich, some consolation, glimmering hope at the end of the game in Ryan Aït-Nouri. Gets in, shoots, scores, Megs his man, I believe. Consolation goal, but another goal for the young man. And I mean, his body language said everything. No one celebrated. No one threw their arms up in disgust from a Brentford end either, because the game was all but over at that point. But good for him to get on the score sheet at least.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you know, he's got the quality. He just can't defend, bless him, can he? But going forward, he's an absolute dream to watch and probably a nightmare to play against. But again, it's part of the club's fault he's not playing left wing because we got rid of our only left back. So again, it's our own problem that we've got. You've got to play him every week because who else is going to go there? So Yeah, for me, quality though, outstanding footballer, just lacks the concentration levels and tracking of a footballer. That's probably why he's a better winger, but it is what it is. Yeah, he's had games where you think, oh, he's absolutely outstanding, which is why big teams are supposedly looking at him and want him. But then you look at the defending side of it and realise that's why he's probably still with us, unfortunately. But you can't doubt the quality he has. But the same as Semedo, some of the defending is just absolutely pitiful, to be honest. But it ain't just them two, is it? So
I think it's a collection of parts, really. Dan, there are some comments in the live chat about the set piece coach at the moment. Wolves conceding set piece after set piece, it seems, at the moment. Is there any job that you can make up within the Wolves ranks that you might be able to just unqualified get a role in that you can think of?
Well, Jeff Shee's got the chairman's job, so I'm sure there's got to be like, I don't know, just super chairman at Wolves, because, like I said, I feel a lot of our current problems stem from him. His comments that he came out with in the summer that Alex Richards put out yesterday. Jeff Shee warns supporters that Wolves aren't an ideal choice if they want to see success. And was he fucking bang on the money? We've played 7 games now, drawn 1, lost 6. Everything that he's been doing as a chairman has just seemed to unravel since Laurie Dalrymple left up. I feel like all the good that's come from this club has not been through his decision making. I feel like the players that we were able to bring in the championship season was down to Nuno's drawing, obviously Jorge Mendes being a massive cog in that sort of recruitment model that we had in place at the time. I think Jeff Shee was massively led down the wrong path with the signing of Fabio Silva, because I think that was the transfer that Jeff Shee really hung his hat on. He was talking similar to how we talked about Helder Costa in previous years, about him being my boy and the future of the club and him being this next superstar and whatever, and it's completely fallen flat on his desk at Molineux, where he resides on a daily. It's really frustrating watching this club decline the way it has done, because when we were sort of in that Europa League and in that sort of era under Nuno, obviously the pandemic's got a lot to answer for, regardless of how you look at it, football or in general life. Aston Villa got Champions League last season. They've spent big again this summer. We had the chance to do it, and our recruitment in that pandemic season was massively shit. And that stems from whether it's the ownership's objectives or Jeff Shee trying to please the owners by doing things on the cheap instead of asking for more money from the owners. I feel like we're in a rapid decline at the moment, and these next 4 to 6 weeks maybe are going to be crucial in the next few years of our club, because I feel that we're the sort of club that if we were to get relegated this season, you wouldn't bet against us to go down again.
Really? Do you think a third double dip in our history would potentially be on the cards? That is a frightening thought, isn't it? To be fair, I'm sure you'll get some of the people there that want it to happen, so they can be this version's. I was at Wrexham. Well, they'll probably be in the Premier League before we get back, but there we go. So we're going to have a short break for those that are listening in podcast form, the chance to have a quick breather. For the second half of the show, we're going to talk a little less about the game itself and more about Gary O'Neill and his future. So if you want to get involved, the StreamYard link is in the chat, and we're looking for people from both sides. Let this be the trial of Gary O'Neill, so to speak. So get involved if you can, and let us know your thoughts on Gary O'Neill. We're going to have a very short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about Gary O'Neill, the team, the future, and what lies ahead. And we'll be back with you very, very, very shortly. did say we'd be back shortly. So welcome back to Wolves Fancast. Thank you very much for those joining us live and in colour across YouTube, Twitter, X, and Instagram. And thanks very much to the Sports Social Podcast Network and fcquiz.app for their support. The T-Mill store has free UK shipping until midnight if you'd like to get some Fancast clobber in your wardrobe. So, gents, we're going to talk Gary O'Neill chiefly at first. He had some pretty interesting things to say post the Brentford game, including a little clip that we're going to play to you about his worst game as a coach. But let's have a listen to this, and we'll get the thoughts from the team when we've heard it.
The worst game I've been involved in so far as a coach, because it didn't look anything like we wanted it to look. An unbelievably disappointing afternoon for us. Crazy goals that we give away. Don't give ourselves a chance. Lose complete control and structure, and are wide open. So a lot to think about, a lot to put right. And we're obviously 2 weeks now to get into how we give this group an opportunity to be more competitive than they were today.
Yeah, I mean, Rich, first and foremost, that's a man that sounds deflated, isn't it? Gary O'Neill there in that clip.
We can't really blame him, can you? But again, you can only blame him. Unfortunately, it doesn't matter about recruitment. At the end of the day, he's still playing the same formation, the same squad, the same players. He's not changing anything. The set piece, like I said before, is absolutely dog shit. Everything's poor at the moment on the pitch. Stinks off the pitch. I feel bad for him because, again, we've obviously, like Dan was saying, we've had the money in the window. We could have spent it. For some reason, we decided to put it in the piggy bank for January, where we're going to be desperate for anyone to come sign for us. So we were paying double. But, yeah, you got to feel bad for him at the same time, thinking, Jesus, how long has he got left? He's saying that kind of thing in the press. His head's gone, surely. He can't be saying that. But then, not take ownership properly of it he'll still pay a back four. So what can you do?
Yeah, that's the situation for me. I'm sorry to jump in there, Rich. I'm having my half an hour change now because you've said it too many times for me in there. You feel sorry for him. He's brought a lot of this on himself.
Yeah.
He's had numerous weeks now to try and change up this formation. We went into that game yesterday, and I think people was expecting a lot more changes than what he did. Not making any changes after the Newcastle game for the home game to Liverpool. You can take your hat off to him. It's admirable that he's tried to stick to his philosophy. But after the 6-2 defeat at home to Chelsea, and then the games afterwards, the way that we've not only conceded goals, but the opportunities that we've given teams, a lot of this falls on his desk. And I managed to scramble this. I saw it on Twitter just before the game came on. And I mentioned it a few weeks ago that this team doesn't look fit. Whether that's to do with him in the lack of pre-season that they were able to have going to America. I know obviously the club would have pushed for America. I think if it was up to Gary O'Neill, he probably would have gone to Spain or somewhere where there was less travelling and we could have had a proper pre-season. But if you look at the stats in the Premier League, Wolves are the team that have ran the least in these opening 7 games, 5 kilometres less than the next team, Nottingham Forest. On a pinpointed fitness being one of the reasons why we were so poor so far this season. And that's for me, down to the coaching staff. For me, he's still learning on the job. And for me, we're a club that can no longer have a coach that is learning on the job, because the longer we go without getting points on the table. I mentioned earlier that you can't use last season's bad run of form in the back third in line with this season, but we mentioned in our WhatsApp group, those like 20 plus games now we've gone without a win. We should have been shithouse in a draw here, shithouse in a 1-0 home win against whoever. I know we beat Burnley, we beat Luton, but there should have been other victories on top of that. And it can talk about how we didn't have a striker in that back end of last season. That's for me how you should have just shut up shop, get some draws on the table and just get through to the end of the season. But he's tried to go down a different path with a group of players that aren't set up play this philosophy that he tries to play. And for me, that's why we're in a predicament, because he's been too stubborn. And for me, that's why he's going to end up losing his job sooner rather than later, because of his stubbornness not to play to this group of players' strengths.
Well said. Well said, Dan. Before we bring in, I'm going to say it's Wazza, William, Wayne. I'm not sure. You can introduce yourself when you come on. Before we bring you in, my friend, I just want to get a clip here where Gary accepts some fan scrutiny. We're going to bring you in because you were at the game yesterday, and you put a really good comment in there about that very fact. So let's have a listen to Gary's fan scrutiny here and his acceptance of that.
Was it also first evidence that you hadn't got the support from the away end today that you have had in the past? There were some chants and there were some boos at full time. Are you feeling that you've been given quite a bit of grace, but that maybe there might be more scrutiny now going forwards after this match?
Oh no, I would expect scrutiny. So I understand how the supporters feel fully. So I understand their frustrations, and as I said, they'll get everything I can give for the whole time that I'm here. So no problem at all with their reaction to our performance, because I agree with them. But now we need to show that we're going to fight and we're going to put it right. At this moment in time, we're 7 games in, and we're in the relegation zone. We're bottom of the league, so you would expect the supporters of this club to be disappointed with that. So as am I. So we get to work, as I say, collectively, and that always willing to accept full responsibility for what was produced today. Lands on my shoulders, and it needs to be better.
So there we have it, Gary O'Neill talking about fan scrutiny. Welcome, my friend. What's your name?
I'm George.
George,
Yeah.
Welcome to Fancast this evening. Thanks for coming on. You were at the game yesterday, and you mentioned about the lack of or hesitancy for the playing staff to come over to the away end because of all of the toxicity and giving it to Gary O'Neill. You don't know what you're doing in chance like that. Talk me through that and their kind of attitude.
So I feel like it kind of started when he took off Andre for Wang, and we started chanting, "You don't know what you're doing." I just feel like he's making these like small stupid decisions, and it's just not helping us at all. Like, it is how can I put it? It's how quick of a time he has to he reacts to like a certain situation before he makes a substitution. Like, it seemed to take him a while for him to actually see something happen on the pitch for him to act on it. So say, for example, we're getting battered in the right hand wing from Mbuemo or something. It takes him a little bit of a while to actually like figure out what's going on to then make a sub, for example. So that's how to put it. That's how our where we get all the negativity towards him. Also, and then after the game, I feel like when they're all coming across, we did clap the players and all that. And then when Gary O'Neill comes over, we're all middle fingering him, calling him a wanker and everything. It's funny, but they seem to just like slowly walk up to the away fans and then like and then just quickly just turned off and went back.
So from your point of view, George, you've paid your hard-earned money to go to the game. You took all of your day. You've spent the money. You've had your beers. You've had your this. You've done that. Is that, from your side, the very least they can do? Bearing in mind the manner of the defeat and the narrative of where we are in our season, it's the least they could do is come over and applaud the away fans, right?
Yeah. The thing, we spend all this money trying to get over there. Like, I spent certain money on getting there on the train, and I have to pay for the ticket and everything. And then just at least show us a bit of appreciation for actually travelling over there, and like seems to be, I don't know how to put it, but like need to show us some sort of respect for actually putting the grind and going to these away matches and seeing all this pain that we have to go through at the moment.
Mm-hmm. No, I hear you, mate. I hear you. Thanks for coming on and letting us know your experience within the stadium. Listen, the people have asked for it. We have the power. We've summoned from the heavens above. Jafo is on the show, ladies and gentlemen. So, George, you're being subbed off, my friend, but Jafo, you're coming on to discuss everything Gary O'Neill this evening. Thanks, George, mate. Jafo, welcome. How are you this fine evening?
Yeah, I'm fine. I just got pulled away from playing people to come and be a defender of Gone, and it's difficult, to be honest. Yesterday was a sucker punch, really, because everything that could go wrong went wrong for him. And it's just, I don't know, thinking about it and having 24 hours out, we've got the feeling of, is it something that we really expected with O'Neill? We took a big risk with a young manager. I know he'd been at Bournemouth, but he's never really cut his teeth anywhere. He had a good season last season, no doubt about it, no doubt. And it's moments like this where he's got to really pull everything together and use every tiny amount of experience that he has got to try and get the best out of this group of players.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's exactly what he's paid for. And Jafo, don't go anywhere, because I want to hear from Gary O'Neill amidst a possible rethink of structure and what we need to do within the team formation and stuff. And this will really annoy the fan base. And we're going to go back and get the thoughts on a poll that we put out about the worst decision of the game. But let's just see Gary O'Neill's thoughts on a possible rethink within the formation.
Never seen us that far away from game plan before. So whether the early goal, which we discussed, rocked us, but whatever it is, it's not acceptable for that to be the level of performance. So obviously I've spoken in previous weeks around the level that we managed to reach against good top sides in the league, but that today gives you no chance of winning a game. If you go out and you give Brentford 4 goals, you have 5 goals, you have absolutely no chance. So yeah, really poor. So a lot of work to be done together, myself, the group. Obviously we've been trying to put things together in a way that we thought would help the group perform. Today is probably first evidence that it needs a rethink.
I mean, that's going to really annoy some people that have been clamouring for that return to 5 at the back. But Jafo, as his defender in chief, his spin doctor per se, where do you lie with this? And should he have identified this earlier in the season, or is 7 games a reasonable amount of time to realise that it's just not working?
I think there's a very fine line between bravery and foolishness, and he's treaded it ever so daintily the whole way through this season. And I think he's kind of laid his own traps in a way that you go back to last season, you go back to the videos that the club put out where he's talking to players like Gomez and he's saying, oh yeah, you can't play in a 3 yet, you don't look comfortable in that sort of position. And yet we have Andre come in and we go to a midfield 3 and we kind of isolate players into positions where they're not comfortable. And it's frustrating because I think a lot of us could see that we can improve on the situation where we are now. A lot of people are clamoring to go back to the 5 at the back, but I think even just going to a double pivot, playing people where they're strongest, I think the bravest decision now is to drop somebody like Lamina, because it shows strength as a manager to drop your captain, to potentially put Gomez and Andre as a 2 DMs, or even drop Gomez and have Lamina and Andre as his DMs, and then have something a little bit more structured in front. Because playing, Joe Gomez and Lemina as 8s and trying to get him into attacking midfield positions is insane. We saw enough of that at the back end of last season. It's just something that doesn't work. And the problem is it becomes indefensible when we have got a squad where we can pick attacking players from. The excuse was there last season. We had a lot of injuries. He could use this. This was his get out of jail free card, but he hasn't got that this season, and it's really, really waning thin with a lot of Wolves fans that I could see it, and it must hurt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I want to get up the image that we had earlier about a poll that was on the Fancast socials across the last 24 hours around the worst decision that was made within the game. The choices, what won was Andre being subbed off for Huang, essentially. At the time, Dan, talk me through your emotions when that decision was made, because my phone literally went littered with like notifications, group chats going, what the hell is going on? What is this substitution all about? Talk me through your emotions when it happened, and it felt like an addition to that long line of strange decisions Gary O'Neill seems to be making in game.
I mean, I was probably in the minority that wasn't as flustered at the time. I was in the minority in our poll that voted that not making one sub at half time was more ridiculous than that. I put on our Twitter mid game that for me, 5 subs at half time wouldn't have been enough for Wolves yesterday. I think you could have subbed 7 or 8 of them off on the back of that first half performance. Obviously, I think the score was 4-2 when Andre came off. It just felt like Gary O'Neill just thought, fuck it, I'm just going to throw as many forwards on as I can there and hope something comes about. But for me, the damage was already done at half time. For me, if we would have ended up winning that game 8-4, I still felt like there was an intervention at board, player, coaching staff levels after that game yesterday. I feel there's that much of a disconnect from top to bottom now. We've already mentioned earlier about some of the comments that Jeff Shee said. I feel the vibe around the club has gone toxic, and it's only going to get worse whilst this chairman's still at the helm, and the people below him have been taking bullets for our chairman for way too long now. Scott Sellers took a bullet for Jeff Shee. Laurie Dalrymple, Kevin Farwell both left under Jeff Shee, and his decision making has been terrible. I feel the way that we've tried to penny pinch with our recruitment is finally coming home to roost now, and similar to Nuno, Bruno, and now Gary O'Neill, they've all been shafted by a chairman that's not been able to allow these head coaches to compete in a Premier League that has got so much financial muscle above us. It's massively frustrating because we could be a gold mine if this club was run properly, and we've got an absolute fucking clown at the top leading this circus at the moment.
You're right. We've got Luke in the lobby waiting to join us, as I'm sure he has some choice words about what went on during the game yesterday. Luke, fantastic to have you on, mate. You roll on, roll off subs going on at the moment. You were with me last week when we were discussing, and we were quite level-headed at the time, and that we were talking about Brentford and what that meant. And it's the morning after the night before. Talk me through your feelings during that game and some of the decisions that Gary O'Neill, was making. Ed in our group chat was pissing blood about the fact that there were 3 single substitutions in 3 separate substitute windows, 2 games running, which he's a very mild-mannered young man, is our Ed, and he was really annoyed by it. So talk me through your thoughts, Luke. Give it both barrels.
I think if we touch on the subs first. To do it once, you can sort of say, all right, Gary. But to do it again the following game, and when, you've just got the stats up that we are the lowest, what was it, distance covered or sprints or something like that, least distance covered. the players are probably shagged. Come the last 15, 20 minutes, so to not use those 2 extra sets of fresh legs, it's like he wants to get sacked, to get that nice little compensation package. The thing that stood out to me the most yesterday was the away fans. I always find at Wolves over the last 20, 30 years, as soon as the manager loses the away fans, it's done. It's curtains. We're just, in my opinion, we're just delaying the inevitable now. Man City at home next. You could say it's a free hit, realistically. Brighton away, it's a place. It's a place we've often struggled at, and we're just going to be three weeks further down the line. I think you mentioned it in the group chat the other day, Matt. I mean, it wasn't this international break window that we was talking about, but you mentioned sort of pulling or firing the bullet on an international break, which makes sense. But I think the next one in November, I think it could be too late then. And if we've got too much catching up to do, it's just a tall task. So yeah, the away fans he's lost the away fans. What happens if we beat Man City? We get 3 points, mate. But the same shit is still going to go on. I think Dan mentioned it just before I came on. It's a lot deeper than Gary O'Neill. It really is. And he touched on how us being tight over the last 3, 4, 5 windows or seasons it's coming to bite us on the arse now. I mean, me and Dan was having a conversation the other day, and why are Folsom going to spend £90 million to stay up when they can spend £20 million? Because whether we finish 16th or 8th, are they really bothered? I don't think so, personally. I don't think they give a shit.
David Burns just asked, and Luke responded, what happens if we beat Man City? It might have already happened, but there is going to be someone. I'm going to put a poll. I reckon my raffle ticket is Monday, 4:30 in the afternoon, where someone says on social media, I hope we don't beat City, so he goes. It 100% will happen, because this happens all the time in these kind of scenarios. But, Rich, Man City, it doesn't look good, to be honest, from a Wolves' point of view, the champions coming to Molineux. But this game, do you see it as a free hit for Gary O'Neill, and then the real fight begins after that? The news articles that came out today is that Fosun is sticking with their man. So do you see City as a free hit?
No, I don't, to be fair. I see what you mean by saying it's a free hit, but at the end of the day, we should have dug in from game one. Like I think Dan was saying earlier, like shit out a draw, shit out a win here and there. That's what we need to do. Set a back five, deal with it, be hard to beat, frustrate the shit out of these teams, make them make mistakes, counter them. We've done that for years. We counter-attack and look great doing it. So let's change it and play a back four and think, whatever, we can't play a back four. We don't have the ability. But City, they're obviously a different team without Rodri, so that's maybe a bit of a bonus. But they've got superstars in every position. They're probably, if not the best, one of the best teams in the world. So to be able to even compete with a team like that is hard for any team in the world, let alone us, currently with 0 confidence and 1 point out of 7. So it's just frustrating. It's going to be a hard watch. Yes, we could nick a 1-0. You never know. Dawson could have another game like he did last time against Ireland and put him in his pocket. But it could also be a Sam Johnston nightmare where he doesn't really touch a ball, then we're 3 down after 7 minutes. So we're reaping what we sow, unfortunately, by playing a back four. But we've just got to hope and pray. We'll support what we can. But the frustrations will be ringing out. As I think Luke said, the fans go, they've gone. You can't get them back. Even beating City, I don't think you're going to get the fans back on board. It'd be great, yeah, we get some points on the board, but I think people are just done with this. The substitutions are a joke, the tactics are a joke. It's just frustrating. It is frustrating.
You don't think a pie and a pint offer from the club would, put things, making things right for everybody now? Dan, I'll come to you before we ask that big question to close the show. Gary O'Neill, in or out? The next fixtures that come Wolves' way in terms of after City. Everyone's talked about a more favourable run for Wolves. And I want to get everyone's opinion on kind of where we're going to be points-wise over the next few games. So you might feel that Wolves will get a win over City. But where do you think this time next month, don't know off the top of my head how many games we're playing, but over the next kind of 5 games under Gary O'Neill's stewardship, where do you think we're going to be?
Sorry, I didn't realise I was on mute. I'm trying to do so many bits and bobs behind the scenes, but yeah, looking at those fixtures there, home to Man City. I mean, our goal difference already feels like -49. So if we can keep it to like less than 6-0, then I'd probably be happy with that. I was joking the other day that they've got Rodri and Kevin De Bruyne are out, so they're not a special Man City side that we've come up against in recent times. But you look at the players that they've still got. Kovacic probably walks into our midfield. They've got them a hell of a team in there. So I think if we can just compete on the day, keep it to a relatively low score, similar to how the Liverpool game ended up, would be a minor positive. But you just look at those fixtures. Brighton away after that terrible ground for us to go to in recent years. The way the Crystal Palace are going at the moment, I joked to one of my friends who's on a different WhatsApp group as a Crystal Palace fan, who's going to get a win first out of us and Crystal Palace, because they lost again, didn't they, this weekend? I think Oliver Glasner, similar to Gary O'Neill, started really well at Crystal Palace, but he's under pressure now because he's just not picking up enough points. And then you go into the game after that, home to Southampton. I don't understand. I'm not still in a mindset currently where I think sacking Gary O'Neill's the answer, because I don't know who out there you can bring in. But I said my mindset changes by the minute because it's just an absolute circus that we're in. But purely because he got us a win at the Albion, which people like Nuno couldn't do, I'm giving him till that Southampton home game. And if we haven't picked up any wins in that time, he's got to go. And for me, he, similar to sort of Glenn Hoddle, doesn't have a job in football afterwards if we lose those 2 jobs, because for me, he's not going to be a coach in the long run, because I feel like his inexperience and his in-game management is a burden which no club can afford to have going forward.
Luke, from your point of view, let's take City out of the equation for a minute. The 5 games that follow, what's an acceptable amount of points for you to keep Gary O'Neill in a job?
7.
7 was all I was thinking. Yeah,
7. You've got to be the position that we're in. We've got to be winning our home games now. So Palace, we need maximum points. Southampton, we need maximum points. Bournemouth, we need maximum points. Not even just that. I mean, I know how many games are we now? 7, 6, 7,
7. Yeah.
I don't even fucking know. But we need to start looking at it like a mini league now, don't we? Who's going to be in that mini league around us? Palace, Saints, Fulham, Bournemouth. Let's just try and win that mini league at the bottom.
Yeah, I think you probably, sadly, that's where our ambitions need to be this season. Rich, I'll come to you last about this from a fixture point of view. Of those 5 fixtures, how many points keeps Gary O'Neill in a job for you?
Well, I think it's like 7 keeps him in a job for sure, because he's actually turning results over. But is it even realistic currently, the way we're playing and defending, to even think 7's even a chance? Because, yeah, Brighton's, like I said, always a tough game. Struggled at Palace. Should really, on paper, walk Southampton, but it's us, so I don't expect it. Fulham, tricky away. You can pick up results, but again, they're not too bad. And Bournemouth, yeah, play good football, look good. You could turn around at these next 6 fixtures there and pick up 2 points, realistically. And Yeah, or none, obviously, but you just got to hope 7 or plus more points, gets us a real breathing spot. Other teams like, say, Southampton and Palace keep losing. That mini league doesn't turn into a mini league, like Luke's just saying. We're out of that. Then we're looking at getting above that now and then pushing into the top half as such. But it's just one result will change our mood for sure. Maybe not about O'Neill, but it'll give us a bit of confidence that maybe we've got ability to start playing football again.
Yeah.
But again, it's going to depend on O'Neill and his tactics and the subs and things like that. It's all little things. We need a bit of luck. I'll take a shithouse 1-0 at anyone right now. I don't care. I don't care who scores it, if it's an own goal, whatever. I just want to win a game and feel that it's not depression at 5 o'clock on a Saturday or a Sunday again going, oh, I lost again. Wait for the WhatsApps to come in from my mates, mugging me off as usual because how crap we are. But yeah, it's just a frustrating time. We just got to hope we can pick up points. That's all we can do.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's some cracking comments that are in the chat at the moment. Still with I think that's an avocado in his profile picture. I can't make that entirely out. Gemma to take over at halftime during the City game, interrupting, oh, what a goal or whatever it is these days. Tim Green, we put on the screen, how ironic would it be for Gary O'Neill to be sacked after losing to Bournemouth? David, we wouldn't bet against any of the other Premier League teams losing to Wolves. There's so much kind of conflicting emotions at the moment. That's what's great about these public forums, to be able to say it. But Luke, simple question, mate. Gary O'Neill in or out?
So you say it's a simple question, but my only thinking is, if we sack him, we could employ somebody who's equally as shit, but he looks good because he gets results in the next batch of games, which O'Neill could have potentially got results from as well. Anyway, I'm going to say, I'm just going to say O'Neill in, just because I think Falson don't want to pay the compensation.
I mean, we all know it's Rob Edwards anyway. I've been to the future. That's what happens. Because that's just the way we seem to do things at the minute. But you're an O'Neill in. This is your last chance in the chat, boys and girls, to get your O'Neill in or out at the moment. Great question from Mouldy there, Rich.
No.
Sorry to put you on the spot, mate. Would you swap Gary O'Neill for Moyes?
Oh, Jesus. It doesn't improve football, but it might pick up results. That's the thing. It might pick up results, but he stunk at West Ham. Yes, he won a trophy, so he can't complain. But, yeah, there's a reason why a lot of these, managers get the sack, and, West Ham didn't want him for a reason, to be honest. But, again, more defensively, we might all of a sudden become a team that can actually not concede 4 a game at the moment. And that's probably what we're looking for, because we can score, but we just can't stop conceding. So, yeah, I don't know.
Tough one, isn't it? Tough one. I'm glad I'm hosting. I haven't got to give my opinion on this one. Dan, you've already said for now it's Gary O'Neill in. So you've pinned your colours to the mast on that one. But you strongly believe, and you've said it on loads of different kind of forms, the problems are bigger, aren't they, than Gary O'Neill? This is a kind of a sum of all of the parts, Gary O'Neill, at the moment, and there are bigger problems at play. If you can condense that down for us, what do you mean by that?
Shit show, absolute shit show from top to bottom. I think it's getting to the point now for a lot of Wolves fans where, on the back of the season ticket pricing, which has now reached the highest in Wolves' history for the paying customer, what we're seeing in and out of the stands on the pitch at Compton isn't giving us our justification for why we're working Monday to Sunday, Monday to Friday, in whatever circumstance that you're in. It's massively frustrating to invest so much time, money. It's getting to the point now I don't even enjoy doing fancast stuff a lot of my time now, because it's why are we giving so much to a club that constantly feels like it's shitting on us from above? Home and away season ticket holder for years gone by now. £30 for an away ticket, travel close to like £60-70 before you even stepped out the door on an away day now. And the throwing performances like they did in yesterday. I felt sorry for Ryan Aitnor yesterday, because I think he was one of the first ones over. and naively by him, he was the one that went over first and took the most flack. And I feel like this coach who's in charge has thrown him under the bus this season, playing him in a position which he's completely not suited to. And on the back of that defeat yesterday, he was the one that took the full brunt from that away contingent yesterday. And it's a long way back for Gary O'Neill. The next two fixtures are pretty much 0 points with another massive hit to our goal difference. But that's the vibe that Gary O'Neill has been spouting in the media since the start of the season, that, like Luke mentioned, these are the games that we are in a mini league with, and these are the games that we have to pick up points from. And the game away at Nottingham Forest was the first one this season. We picked up a point there. Yesterday, a lot of us would have been expecting at least a point there. Didn't get it, but the two home games that are coming up after Man City and Brighton, Crystal Palace and Southampton, you win those two. I think we've mentioned 7 points at the next sort of 6 games. I think like the league table is still really tight if you look at it, and 7 points from those 6 games may be enough to get us out of the relegation zone. Then you try and kick on from there. But I feel like the vibe around the club at the moment is that we can't buy a win, and that's where the massive concern comes from. And then having to bring in a new manager to take over from Gary O'Neill, I don't know where you even start with that, because like Luke mentioned, are they going to want to pay the compensation to Gary O'Neill, and are they going to be able to sell this club to a decent manager when we've had a chairman from the summer saying, if you're expecting success, Wolves might not be the club for you?
You took the words right out of my mouth, Dan. There may not be the club for you, but Fancast can be the channel for you. We're going to cover all of the goings on this season and all of the drama. We'll discuss it every single week as we do preview shows, post-game shows. We want to thank everybody for getting involved this evening. It's been really, really good to get some of you on the show. Lots of comments in the chat. If you're listening to us in podcast form and you want to try and come on the show as well, drop us a DM. We'll see what we can do, trying to get you on and have your say on the podcast as well. Thank you very much to the Sports Social Podcast Network, fcquiz.app. The Wolves Fancast T-Mill store has free UK shipping until midnight this evening. Thanks again for everybody that's been getting involved on the socials. We really, really do appreciate your time. Thanks to everybody that's joined as well. Luke, thank you for having a last-minute substitution for us. It's been really nice to have you on. Dan, Rich, thank you very much. And for everybody at home, have a great week ahead. Check in on your pals, look after yourself, and we will see you on the next one.